Everyone hear me okay? Good morning, welcome to this licensing subcommittee on Tuesday, 2nd of April at 10:20 a.m. My name is Councillor Matthews. I'll be chairing the meeting today. To my right, I have Councillor Morgan and Councillor Allgood. We're also joined by Councillor Kesker, should we need to change councillors for any reason. To my left, from Legal, I've got Nicola Sayers, and from her left, I have, from Democratic, Trace Larson. I will start by reading the webcasting. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be recorded and will be capable of repeated viewing or another use by such third parties. If you're seated in the lower public seating area, it is likely that the recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in the possibility that your image will become part of the broadcast. This may infringe your human and data protection rights, and if you wish to avoid this, you should move to the upper public gallery. Apologies for absence. Have we got any apologies?
None.
None. Thank you. Declarations of interest?
No.
I'll now just briefly outline the procedure for those of you who haven't been part of one of these meetings before. What will happen is the lead officer, in this case David King, will outline the case. The applicant or their agent will then present their case. Any objectors will then have the opportunity to speak. There will then be a chance for objectors to make a final statement. In that, we really please ask that we don't just repeat everything that's already been said. It's just a concluding statement. Finally, the applicant has the right to make their final statement and again to conclude things rather than repeat. All evidence is disclosed, made in the presence. We will then, the applicant can then have an opportunity to ask questions and come back to the objectors. We will then adjourn. Because of the amount of people in here today, the councillors will adjourn and we will make our decision and come back and deliver that accordingly. Thank you. Next is exclusion of public and press. We don't need that. And then we can start. So the application before us for the premises licence, Chickaroo's Chicken, Chigwell, 783 Chigwell Road, Woodford Green, Chigwell. And I will now pass over to David King to summarise the case for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the application originally applied for late night refreshment to take place both indoors and outdoors, Monday to Sunday between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m, with the opening hours to the public being Monday to Sunday 6 a.m. until 1 a.m. A home delivery service only would be operating between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. The application was received on the 6th of February. In accordance with the Act, all responsible authorities have received a copy of the application. It was also advertised at the premises and in a local newspaper. A copy of the blue notice and newspaper advert are attached to this report. During the consultation period, the authority has received 50 valid representations, including representations from the Council's Community Resilience Team, Essex Police, Chigwell Parish Council and 47 from local residents and businesses. The objections relate to all 4 licensing objectives and are attached to this report. On the 28th of March, we received late notice from the applicant's licensing agent. The applicant has agreed to amend the hours applied to those suggested by the police. The requested hours are now as follows. Late night refreshment, Monday to Saturday, between 11 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. for home delivery only. Late night refreshment, Sunday, between 11 p.m. and midnight for home delivery only also. This means that the premises will close to the general public at 11 p.m. Monday to Sunday, and the use of the outdoor seating will cease at 10 p.m. Monday to Sunday. The subcommittee are advised that these are now the only hours due for consideration and not those previously stated in the application that's attached to the report. Those that have made a representation have been advised of the amended hours. However, due to the late notice of the amendment, they have been advised that unless we receive confirmation to the contrary, we will assume that they continue to oppose the application in its amended form, and the original representation will still be taken into consideration by the licensing subcommittee when determining this application. no residents have withdrawn their representation. However, in response to the amended hours, the Council's Community Resilience team have confirmed that they have no objections to these hours and would therefore be happy for their representation to be withdrawn. In addition to the representations, the committee should also note that an informative has been provided by the Council's Planning Service detailing the current planning permission and advising that the relevant planning permission would need to be obtained before use as a hot food takeaway commences, irrespective of the operating hours and whether or not the premises licence is in place. The applicant is aware of this, and the planning application in respect to this premises is currently being considered by the Planning Authority as a separate matter. However, the committee are reminded that under the Licensing Act 2003, planning and licensing regimes are separated to avoid duplication and inefficiency, as they involve consideration of different, albeit sometimes related matters. Licensing committees are not bound by decisions made by the Planning Committee and vice versa. Therefore, there is no legal basis for a licensing authority to refuse a licence because the relevant premises does not have planning permission or where there are conditions on that planning permission. If, however, the subcommittee were minded to grant the application, the licence holder would not be permitted to use the premises as a hot food takeaway or operate outside of the current permitted hours until the relevant planning permission has been obtained. To do so would be considered an offence under planning legislation and could result in enforcement action being taken. The subcommittee is therefore asked to determine the application having regard to the content of this report, any additional information obtained from the hearing, the Council statement of licensing policy, guidance issued by the Secretary of State, and the steps appropriate to promote the licensing objectives. When considering an application for a licence, the licensing authority must have regard to the steps that are appropriate to promote the licensing objectives. These are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. In reaching its decision, the subcommittee may take any of the following steps as it considers necessary for the promotion of the licensing objectives. They are to grant the licence as applied for, subject to conditions mentioned in the operating schedule or modified as the subcommittee considers necessary, to exclude from scope of the licence any licensable activity, or to reject the application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Just before I let the applicant present their case, in light of Mr. King's summary there and the changing of the hours, I just want to give everyone an opportunity from the objectors. Does everyone want to maintain their objection, or if anyone does want to withdraw that, now is the time to do that before we start the next bit? If I take everyone's happy to continue then. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. In which case, I will ask the applicant or his agent to present the case. If you could please, when speaking, press the button to turn the microphone on. You'll see the red dial, and then to turn that off when you're finished. If you could introduce yourself at the beginning of when you talk, please. Thank you very much. When you're ready, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Stuart Gibson, licence agent representing the two applicants to my right. As you've heard from Mr. King, it is now before you an amended application from the original that was submitted. And quite clearly, the level of objection, the level of concern raised by yourselves and others has had an impact on the applicants. They've considered what you've had to say, and therefore we have an amended, dramatically watered down application before you today. Quite clearly, had there been no objections, there would have been no amendment. We're not trying to butter this up any other way. Of course they wouldn't. But they've taken into account what you've had to say, and the application has been amended. And just to clarify, as Mr. King has already said, what is before you today purely is home delivery only from these premises from 2300 hours until midnight, 12:30, Mondays to Saturday, and 2300 hours until midnight on a Sunday. It is not for this committee to decide whether or not this restaurant takeaway can open or not. So anything they do up to 11 o'clock at night is not a matter for today. That is not under consideration whatsoever. The hours were reduced basically because of a an alternative hour offer or suggestion from the police, and it was agreed to that these hours would be taken on board by the applicant. Now, let's talk about home delivery, because people get worried about home delivery and they have ideas of Uber Eats drivers and little annoying, buzzing motorbikes going around the streets at night. This is not the case here, not at all. The deliveries, and I can say this with utmost confidence because these guys operate, how many? Three or four?
Three restaurants.
3 other restaurants across the south of England. And this is how they operate. So I'm not just picking something out of the sky and saying this is what they'll do. They do it in other restaurants. They employ their own... No. They employ their own delivery drivers and they use their own vehicles. And when there is no delivery being ordered, the drivers are inside the shop, which is locked to the public. You can't get in. The lights are off. As far as the general public are concerned, the premises is closed at 11 o'clock, which is then entitled to do. If the delivery comes through, a driver will pick up that delivery, take it out to his car, get in and drive off. There'll be 2 vehicles. That is it. We're not talking lining up for miles around like taxi rank. Here's another one, here's another one. It's not that. It is purely, as an order comes through, the driver will take it and deliver it. There is no threat to the prevention of public nuisance to you at all. It is 2 vehicles that maybe come and go, I don't know, 3, 4 times a night, whatever, if that. That is what we're talking about here. We're not talking about whiny motorbikes and so forth, as you have the impression things are with other deliveries. This is how they operate, and this would be offered, so you think, well, I'm not saying one thing and they can go and do another. Chair, this would be offered as a condition to the licence, should you be minded to grant, that it would be employed delivery drivers, motor vehicles only, a maximum of 2 cars. Happily to put that forward as a condition. So, just to reiterate and go over again, the premises would be closed to the public at 11 p.m. This committee is not empowered to do anything else. They can't say the premises must close at 10 p.m. It's not in their power. Late night refreshment only kicks in at 2300 hours, and that's what they're applying for. I noted in some of the objections, some people had got it round their necks. There was alcohol involved here. There's no alcohol involved whatsoever. Somebody saying, oh, late night drinking, people will be drunk and they'll get alcohol from this place. That's not the case. Purely late night food. And the Licensing Act determines that if you want to sell hot food and or hot drink after 11 o'clock at night before 5 o'clock the following morning, you need to be licensed to do so. That's the law. And this is what we're here today to discuss. They've also gone further forward and in recommendation with the police that the outside area they have will be closed at 10 p.m. Now that is something that you will, I guess, need to take on trust from us, the applicant, because the licensing authority don't have any powers to enforce that at 10 o'clock because it's not a licensing matter before 11. But you have rest assured that the outside area will cease to operate at 10 o'clock. Now, if the outside area carried on 10 o'clock, there are other laws, environmental health laws that will assist you on that. But I'm here to tell you they will not trade beyond, or they will not use the outside area beyond 10 o'clock at night. It has been mentioned that there is potential conflict, but alignment needs to be made in terms of planning, and that is in hand. That's not something that I've been involved in up to yet, but I understand the landlord's, the applicant's landlord is dealing with that in terms of regulating the correct planning hours and the correct planning permission to marry up should the committee be minded to grant the licence this evening, this morning. Now, quite obviously, if planning permission is not in place and licensing permission is in place, they cannot trade until the two regulate each other. And if planning should come back and say, no, you can't have 12:30, you can have 12 o'clock, that's what it would have to be. It's the lesser of the hours that would be enforceable. So please rest assured that just because if the committee today decide to grant the licence, they cannot go ahead and trade straight away. There is a planning hurdle still to overcome and satisfy the planning authority that their permissions marry up with the licensing permissions. That will be dealt with before any trading takes place. So what you have before you today is, as I say, very much a watered-down application, and you're looking at it in terms of the 4 licensing objectives. The prevention of crime and disorder. There'll be no crime take place from 11 o'clock until 12:30. The premises are closed to the public. The public cannot gain access. All you're dealing with is 2 guys sat inside waiting on the phone to ring, basically. Really exciting job, but that's what it is. If the phone doesn't ring, they don't move. If an order is prepared, they will take that order to that home address, and orders will only be delivered to bona fide home address. It won't even be a business address at this time of night, unlikely to be, but there'll be no deliveries made to open spaces in parks and park benches and so forth. Again, happily to condition that, Chair. So it's bona fide address, delivery made, and that is it. So there's no crime involved. There's no public safety issue involved here, and certainly no prevention of public nuisance. Prevention of public nuisance encompasses noise. But where is the noise from potentially 2 vehicles leaving and coming back 4 times a night? That's not causing you out of the norm. One of you people could be out somewhere at a show or a restaurant or something and come home yourself at 11:30, 10, 12 o'clock, 12:30. Would that be constituted a public nuisance? No, not at all. I can see the concerns you had with the original application. Honestly, I can. I've been doing this too long not to. Yes, 3 o'clock in the morning could have caused you an issue. 12:30 at night, with the method that we're talking about, and there's no general public involved, this would not cause you an issue to public nuisance. And the protection of children from harm being the 4th one, bringing that up in the rear, not a hint of a problem in terms of protecting children from harm here. There is no children on the premises. There are no children can gain entry to the premises. If a child is going to eat, they'll be in their own house, waiting for the delivery to come. That is the application before you. As I say, it is important to understand that we are dealing with 11 o'clock onwards here. If the committee were to say no to this application, the premises could still open up, given the planning is married up, I take that as read, and trade till 11 o'clock at night. And there is nothing this committee would have in its power to say no to that, because it's not licensable before 11 o'clock. So we're talking about that 1.5 hours Monday to Saturday and that 1 hour on a Sunday. That is it. And it's 2 cars waiting on deliveries. That's all we're talking about. I'm sorry to have laboured that a little bit, but I wanted you to understand it's a dramatically watered-down application to the one that was before you. And I've sat for many hours in my office reading through all your representations and making notes, and so I'm well aware of what your concerns are. But I believe, truly believe, that this new application that is before you, or the amended application, takes away your fears. This is not going to be the horrible thing that you feel it may be or was going to be coming before you. As I say, once you recognise up to 11 o'clock at night there's nothing you can do to stop it, it's that extra hour and a half is not going to cause you those concerns. So given those statements, I would ask, on behalf of the applicants, Chair, that you and your committee move to grant the application as amended. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. It will now be the chance of the objectors to put forward their case. After that, you may be questioned by members, and the applicant has an opportunity to question as well. And then you'll make a final statement. As I said, if we could really try and not to repeat the case, we've read through and we'll take everyone's point on board, but we don't want to keep repeating the case. So,
I think we normally ask, have we got any questions for the applicant?
oh, sorry. So, okay, my mistake. Is there any questions for the applicant at this stage?
Have we got any?
No, yeah.
No, that's it.
Okay, and then we'll move on to, would you like to start with?
Sorry, I have a question. You talk about deliveries. What about pickups? So if you're calling in and you're placing an order, we've spoken about delivery, but what about pickups? Are pickups stopping at 10, 11 o'clock, or can pickups be done later as well?
Yeah, thank you for the question. As the application stated, home delivery only. So there will be no pickups beyond 11 o'clock at night. Nobody could phone up and I will be there in half an hour to pick up my order. After 11 o'clock, that will not be possible. From 11 through till 12:30 and 11 through till midnight on a Sunday, it will be home delivery only.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm representing myself and my family and some other households in Smeaton Road, Love Lane and Turpins. The first thing is, could I please ask, what is the catchment area for deliveries? Sorry.
4 miles, up to 4 miles.
Okay, thank you. And so is payment before you deliver or at the point of delivery?
As usual, it's, yeah, most of the time it's prepaid. It's paid already.
Press it again.
Yeah, press it again. Sorry, you didn't. If you can press the button again.
Well, if it's, all right. Okay, so thank you. I've done this before. So if it's prepaid, then your drivers or whatever on a 4 mile radius still have to come back, and that takes some time. Yes, which takes you later. Thank you at this stage for letting us know what vehicles you have, but it's going to be 2 vehicles. Could we possibly know what vehicles they are and whether they're electric or whether they're motor? Be useful.
Cars, yeah, electric cars. Yeah.
Can you turn your one off? Sorry, I know it's immensely frustrating, but if you can turn it on and off every time you speak, and then so that the recording is clear for those viewing at home. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. And can I ask what size the vehicles are? There's a reason behind it.
The standard size costs about maybe.
Thank you, because my question is really around this, is the previous operator in what was called using, due to COVID, did deliveries in what the agent described as whiny motorbikes, and we should be happier with these. However, as seen in the bundle, public nuisance isn't just noise. Vehicles have to cross the pavement. Vehicles also, they're matters of lights, and most of all, these roads are very, very slim indeed. So one vehicle going up and down any of the roads, there are blind spots, can cause obstruction, can cause other vehicles to get heated. And the experience, my experience and that of others, is that you hear the operation from the most careful of operators, and you hear vehicles, see lights and all the rest of it, and other drivers or riders hooting. So can you explain how your operation going later is not going to impact on residents, please?
I think, Chair, the 2 issues you've had raised before you here, and one of them is not relevant. Traffic and parking and busy roads and so forth is not an issue for yourselves. It's an issue for planning. It's not an issue for licensing. The second issue you're talking about is prevention of public nuisance by way of car lights. And as I've said, you've got 2 vehicles who are parked up for most of the evening who may well make 2 deliveries a night, 2 each, if they're doing, as you've said, they've got to go somewhere and then got to get back, and they've only got an hour and a half to do it. So we're not talking a great deal that would impact beyond the normal footprint of traffic through that time of the evening. It's not something that is excessive in terms of out of the ordinary, and I don't see it as a relevant consideration.
If I may, double parking is certainly an issue, and to get through those roads, it is, a lot of the times, it is impossible to go through without some problems there. So I think that's a bit of a disingenuous answer. And there clearly is impact on residents from all these things, is there not?
Sorry, if I may add, just to add to that, what we're forgetting is that the premises is on 783 High Road, but it neighbours onto Smeaton Road. So when you come into Smeaton Road, you enter into what's your car park. So that does impact us It really does.
Excuse me, can I just remind you, for this section, it's to ask questions to the applicants. You'll get an opportunity after to make a statement, but at the moment it's a direct question that you'd like an answer for, if that's possible.
Okay, so my question is, you said it's probably 2 vehicles, 3 to 4 deliveries. How do we know that? Because we don't have a magic ball to see into the future. If you're saying 3 to 4 deliveries a night, then really it's not really a business, is it? It's not really making money if it's only 3 to 4 deliveries a night. Like, you would want more deliveries. You would want more business. So I think saying that it's only 2 cars, 3 to 4 deliveries a night is a bit premature. That was the question. So what have we placed that on? Why do we say it's only 3 to 4 deliveries a night?
I'll start this off, and the gentleman may want to come in at the end of this. First and foremost, economic reasons are not your concern. That's fact. It's a matter for these guys, and if, as you say, it doesn't work, then they won't be there very long. What I'm saying is they have 3 other restaurants that operate in a similar vein, and they do succeed. Now, the reason we're saying a couple of deliveries, couple of cars, 2 to 3 deliveries a night per car, you're talking about an hour and a half. So how many deliveries can you actually fit in? The gentleman opposite me actually said a 4-mile radius, these cars have got to go there, they've got to deliver, and then they've got to make their way back. So the timescales on an hour and a half doesn't lend itself to tremendous amount of deliveries. It's just being practical, it's just being realistic. But in terms of, does this work as a business model, that's a matter for these guys, it's not a matter for me, it's not a matter for the people on the committee.
Yes.
For clarity, my point about having to go to the 4-mile radius for delivery, it takes those hours beyond the hour, the impactful hour, and the impactful hour and a half for the vehicles to come back. So they would be coming back even later than the hours being applied for. And also, is it not the case, maybe it's not our concern, it will be a concern for the committee, but isn't it a concern, especially given Toulson, that the committee will have to balance the economic need for the area and possibly the operator against the negative impact on residents? Isn't that the case?
Let's come back to the, I presume it to be a question in terms of coming back after the hours. Now, gentlemen, please correct me if I'm wrong, but if somebody takes a delivery out at midnight and he's got to go 4 miles, my feeling is that guy, after delivering that order, will just go home because there is no opportunity for him to come back the 4 miles, load up another one and go out. There just isn't going to be the time. So you're not going to have cars coming back at 10 to 1, 1 o'clock, 1:15 because they've been to the wilds of Essex to make a delivery and an hour on their way back to Brace. It's not going to happen, and that's not what happens in your other premises, to my belief. I think that answers what you were saying. What was your other question?
My other question was countering what you said about the economic need. So I just mentioned the Toulson case. For the committee to make that judgment of Solomon, if you like, about the economic need for the area and the applicant versus the negative effect on impact that on residents that live there.
If I can interject there, because I don't think there's a question as such in that. It's more of the presentation, which I understand you're responding to.
It was a counter because of what was listed.
We can cover that. Is there any other questions that people have to ask? The lady down the front here.
Yeah.
If you could just introduce yourself as well, please.
Belinda Stokes of Smeaton Road. My concern is that you say it's just a takeaway, a delivery, you'll be delivering. How can you guarantee that cars that will be driving past see your restaurant with, I don't know, it's going to have a neon light on the front or anything, it's not going to pull over and sort of at 11 o'clock. So they'll be, in my opinion, they'll see a chicken shop, a takeaway shop. They'll be encouraged to pull over on the Chigwell Road, even though there's nowhere to park. Different issue. how are you going to refuse them when they come up to the door to say, can I order a chicken takeaway? How can you guarantee that? Because I don't know any takeaway delivery where people don't pull up to the place to order their food, sit out in their cars and take it away themselves. I don't know anyone that just delivers. So can you answer that question?
Just press your microphone again, please. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. It's a simple answer to that, because at 11 o'clock the lights at the front go off. Are you familiar with the concept dark kitchen? These guys operate a dark kitchen where?
Just about 10 minutes away.
About 10 minutes away, they operate a dark kitchen already. And basically, you as a member of the public, as walking past the premises, would have no idea whatsoever that anything's going on in the back area. The lights are off at the front. Totally, they switch off. 11 o'clock, once the public go, it's gone. The lights are shut off. But they are preparing food in the back area. And this is how they've operated in their other premises up until, is it 3 a.m.? 3 a.m. with not a hint of concern from anybody. And most people don't even know it's there. But that is how the deliveries are made, and the public have no access and no encouragement to come to the premises after 11 p.m.
So the lights would go off at 11 p.m. And no delivery. So anyone knocked on your door for delivery, you would refuse that?
To be honest, they'd be ignored like any other. If they knocked on any other shop at 11 o'clock at night that was closed, there's nobody there. So there is no encouragement whatsoever. I think the wrong thing to do would be for one of these guys to come through the dark and say, sorry, we're closed, because then you're telling people we're still here. The premises is closed to the public at 11 o'clock, end of. It all takes place in the back area only.
Living on Smeaton Road, I mean, if you've ever been down there at 10 o'clock, I mean, I've done a video, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. In fact, 9 o'clock, it's quiet. No lights are on. Most people go to bed at 10 o'clock. So we're all really concerned about just 2 cars. I cannot bear it. The engine is left running. So for me, an engine left running on the street waiting for food to be ready is a big concern to me.
Thank you.
Just to answer that, as I've said in my submissions, the engines are not left running. The engines are switched off. It's electric cars. The chaps wait inside the premises until a delivery is ready. So there are no running engines or anything for you to be concerned of. Lights left on. Chugging vehicles going along in the winter because it's cold, so heaters are on in the car. All of that just doesn't happen. And the evidence is in their premises down the road where it doesn't happen at all.
Thank you. Excuse me. If it's not a question...
It is a question. Where are your other 3 shops?
49 Chigwell Road, 59 High Street, Stevenage, and 10 Middle Road, Stevenage. And we've got another restaurant in Kensington as well.
So your other premises are on what I consider high streets, acceptable high streets where they operate a shop.
Is this going to be a question? Because we're not at the stage of just making statements.
Well, your other shops, are they on high streets where there are other residential shops?
Chair, I don't see the relevance of other premises. We're dealing with the application before you, and every matter is dealt with on its own merits. Other restaurants they operate in other boroughs is no concern really for the committee today.
I'm just going to move on to some other questions, give everyone a chance to speak. Please. Thank you.
Councillor Jeffcoat from Chigwell Parish Council. I just wanted to clarify that I've understood this. In fact, you're looking, in effect, to be running a dark kitchen from 11 o'clock to 12:30 at night, and from whatever the hours you've said on Sunday, you're looking rather than a takeaway or a food license, you're looking to run a dark kitchen there.
It is what it tends to amount to if we by the amended application that, as I say, came in very late to the committee. Whereas the only activity taking place on the premises is to the rear of the premise, and that is how a dark kitchen operates. The front lights, the front of house is turned off, and deliveries are taken via the internet or by a telephone call, and the deliveries are satisfied as and when they come in. Now, technically, that's how their dark kitchen down in Chigwell Road operates. So, to answer your question, yes, it amounts to operating that way.
Please.
Then why are you not applying for a change of use for the premises to operate as a dark kitchen?
As I said in my submissions, the issue with planning is an ongoing one. It's one that I have not been 100% at the forefront of, but are happy to do so. It's been dealt with by the landlord of the premises, who, to the last discussions I've had, there is an application to regulate the hours, but to the last information I've been given, he is in discussion with the planning department as to what is required, if anything, to regulate these premises, and they will not be operated until such time as planning is granted. Obviously, if planning is not granted, then this all falls down, but planning would need to be put in place before any trade could take place.
Sorry, I'm just wondering why we're here then. If you're looking to operate a dark kitchen, why are you applying for a licence?
Because a dark kitchen still requires a licence. You're still offering late night refreshment, as we did down in the other premises.
Not any dark kitchens that I know of. They're generally operated on industrial estates. They don't require licences in the way that you are asking for a licence today. So, sorry, I appreciate that's not a question. I'm happy to close that discussion down.
I'd like to invite Mr King in just to give clarity around that point, if you may, please.
Yeah, Chair, just to clarify, you require a premises licence for the sale of hot food and drink beyond 11 o'clock at night. So irrespective of whether that's open to the public or delivery only. So you still need to apply for the licence.
Thank you very much. The lady with a hand up, thank you.
Sorry, I just need you to clarify or confirm for us. So during normal operating hours, like let's say during the day, it operates from 783 High Road because that's where the public go in. But after hours, because it's deliveries, you come in via Smeaton Road because your front shop is closed. So are we saying that, you know, once the restaurant is closed, the delivery now operates on our residential road because that is where you come in and out of in order to get to your car park?
The front door is closed to the general public, but you can come and go through there from the front door, while you won't be using other back doors.
Sorry, so what I'm saying is, yeah, the front door is when the business is open to the public. Once the business is closed and you're doing delivery, you now have to come onto Smeaton Road in order to get into, I'm talking about your delivery drivers. So that does impact us. So I'm asking, are your delivery drivers coming in and out of the high road, or are they coming in via Smeaton Road, which is why we're here in terms of the hours that don't suit us?
Microphone, please.
But the shop's closed, the lights are off.
Yeah, but we have the keys. You can open and close. Because we'll be inside. Oh, sorry.
Would you like to come back to that anymore?
What we've heard from Mr Gibson is that when your shop closes at 10 o'clock, lights are off, doors are shut. Now, if you've got to pick up a delivery, you've got to get your car out and come out from your car park onto Smeaton Road, which is our road. Lights are on. Yes, it's electric. Yes, noise is reduced. But when we're saying this runs from 783 High Road, effectively, delivery does not. Delivery runs from Smeaton Road, right opposite me. So when your lights go on, when your cars come out at that particular time, like this lady said here, we're in bed by 10 o'clock. It's a quiet road. I'm not trying to make a statement here, but I still haven't had my question answered. Are you coming out of 783 High Road, or are you coming out of Smeaton Road? That's what I need to know.
We have another entrance and exit next to our shop on the gate. So you can use that gate instead. Sorry.
So where's your car coming out of then?
Yeah, I still have a big gate next to the shops.
Yeah, gentleman here first, thank you.
Sorry, Chair, just to clarify and also help
Maybe. My understanding from the papers and the pictures that your premises, the building, is both Chigwell Road and number 2 Smeaton Road. And my understanding from the papers, correct me if I'm wrong, please, is that your delivery vehicles will go in and out between the building at number 2 Smeaton Road and one of the residents at number 4 Smeaton Road for deliveries. Is that right?
Can you repeat that question again? I didn't get it.
Yes. Just for clarity and also to help, is it the case, I think it's shown on the papers, your building covers, I think it's 783 Chigwell Road and is also 2 Smeaton Road. There's a space between your building at number 2 Smeaton Road and one of the residents that's here at number 4 Smeaton Road. Isn't it the case, perhaps the agent can help, that your vehicles, your delivery vehicles, are going to be coming in and out of between the building at number 2 and between the resident at number 4? Is that correct?
We have 4 car parking spaces in front of the shop. We'll be parking our cars at the front if that's the case. We won't be going through in and out. So just to get the deliveries out, so we'll be going through the back entrance and coming through the front. So we have 4 parking spaces at the front. We'll be parking there on the high road, Chigwell Road.
Yeah, but sir, believe it or not, I'm trying to help, just get clarity. It would have helped if it's been on the plan. It would have helped if much more detail had been on the plan about your vehicles. But your vehicles to exit for deliveries and come back for deliveries when they do, would they be coming out of the entrance exit between your building at number 2 Smeaton Road and the resident at number 4 Smeaton Road, or will they be coming in and out from your exit in Chigwell Road?
No, it won't be coming through there. It won't be. Cars won't be going through at the back Smeaton Road and coming through there. But cars will be parked at the front because you've got 4 parking spaces at the front.
If I can just come in and ask a question. So just for absolute clarity, what you're saying to the objectors is that you will use the front of the shop you'll have cars parked out the front of the shop on Chigwell Road. You will then operate a dark kitchen in the back of the shop. You'll then come through the shop, out the front, into the vehicles to make your deliveries and returns. So you won't be going in and out the back. Can you just clarify that point so people can understand, please?
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you. Right, have we got any further questions?
Yeah.
Hold on. The lady behind you was just first.
Oh, for God's sake. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, you're right. No worries. Excuse me, the lady behind you was waiting a long time. Thank you.
Yeah, so are you saying that no vehicles at all after 11 o'clock will come through the side road into Smeaton Road?
Yeah, that's right.
Microphone.
Are you relying on the children of West Hatch School to be your customers?
Thank you. That's a question that falls into not relevant today. It's not a matter for the licensing authority to consider food that is purchased by children at a school, from a school, wherever they come from, before 11 o'clock at night. It's just not something these gentlemen and ladies can take into account in the hearing today. So it's not relevant for today.
I thought it was relevant if it would cause a public nuisance from kids from the school loitering for hanging about chicken shop, which has been reported in sociological...
It's a question.
Yeah,
Question.
the question is...
The gentleman has answered the question.
Right, okay.
Has anyone else got any more questions, direct questions? Councillor Lyon.
Thank you, Chairman. For the benefit of people here, I'm Councillor Lyon, Grange Hill councillor. Reading the licence application, page 22 and 23, it talks about licensing objectives and what the applicant has actually stated he will be implementing. Could I get it confirmed that these are still going to be implemented as was proposed originally?
The licensing or the conditions put forward in the operating schedule as per the application will be implemented in full as they are deemed relevant for the application. I think that's fair, Mr. King.
Thank you. Lady at the back.
Sorry, just
No,
one more
sorry.
question from me. Have we done, or have you guys done anything like risk assessments in terms of what this will look like? I mean, we've had a lot of comments made that we don't need to worry about this, we don't need to worry about that, but what is that actually based on?
Microphone.
So, risk assessments, when you're planning on doing something, you will consider the hours, you will consider the residents, you will consider the roads. Where's the risk assessment? Where is the activity that's done prior to doing this? Because maybe that would give us some comfort. When we finish here today, everybody goes away, and what I've got is, I can assure you it's only going to be 2 cars. I can assure you it's only been... How can you assure me? Where's your risk assessment that I've got something to rely on that tells me you've considered all of these things?
Okay, the section in the application dealing with the 4 licensing objectives is in effect the risk assessments considering the 4 licensing objectives, because that's all we're here to talk about today. What we've put forward today in terms of 2 vehicles, etc., etc., you may have heard me say to the Chair, we offer those as conditions to the licence. Now, when you have conditions on a licence, conditions are in effect rules. You will have this licence granted in your name and you can trade to the following hours as long as you obey the following rules. And there's a big long list of them at the end of every licence. And the applicant or any licensee, be it whatever premises, a pub, a shop, a club, a nightclub, a takeaway shop, whatever, have to abide by those conditions on that licence 365 days a year or 366 as we are this year, or else they are in breach or potentially in breach of their licence. Now, the Licensing Act goes fairly severe on this, and everyone here will know. The Licensing Act said a breach of a licensing condition can result in an unlimited fine and or 6 months in prison for the applicant. Now, I haven't come across anyone who's gone to jail for it, but what tends to happen is the licence is put up for what's called review. And that could happen from any one of you people here, or it could happen from the authorities, or it could happen from the licensing officer, where they submit a review application on a licence, which basically means the licence has been trading outside of the agreed conditions. And the opportunity then is we come back before the committee in the same room, and there is another hearing taking place. But the ultimate result of that hearing could be that licence is revoked and they no longer have a licence to trade to the hours they've been granted. So every applicant has to abide by the conditions of a licence. The conditions are determined from, as I'm reeling back to your question, if you like, risk assessments that have been taken in respect of the 4 licensing objectives, because that is all that a licence application needs to or has to consider. And anything in this case, we are talking about conditions that are effective from 2,300 hours onwards. Anything before that is not for the licensing authority is not enforceable. They cannot enforce anything before 2,300 because it's not part of the actual licence. As this is only a late night takeaway, there's no alcohol involved.
I've got a question here on behalf of the legal, Nicola Sayers.
Even we have problems with... Hi, good morning. For clarity, could you just confirm the conditions that you've proposed you would be okay to have added to this application?
I don't seem to have the actual application form with me. I have the objections with me, but not the actual application form. Thank you. Well, what you have before you is, as I say, the potential conditions on the 4 licensing objectives. So incident logs to be kept, the staff members having the right to work in the UK, CCTV will be operable, and the standard conditions that follow CCTV, I don't need to go through them in any detail, they will be in place. There'll be notices saying CCTV is in operation. A lot of these become redundant if we are now not opening the premises until 1 a.m. And if you, what you not have to understand, obviously you do understand, the application was made with the general public having access until 1 a.m. and then deliveries from 1 till 3. So a lot more of these became relevant. And as I answered the question, which Mr. King clarified, that all the conditions that are on the application form would be we'd stand by them if indeed they were relevant to the new application. So having inside notices that CCTV is in operation is kind of a waste of time after 11 o'clock because no public can get in after 11 o'clock. But having said that, the public do get in before 11 o'clock, and I see it's good practice to have that in place anyway, so I don't have a problem with that. The deliveries of, it says there, will be employed directly by the licensee, no agency staff. The use of the outside area is now 2,200 hours, not 2,300 hours, and I've said there's no issues in terms of protecting children because it isn't really that type of operation in terms of the 2,300 hours and beyond. So it's stand by what I said earlier. The conditions are there. They were made on an application that was different to what we're considering today. So some of them may not be relevant, but I think in the interest of good practice that it doesn't harm to have those, to abide by these, like have CCTV signage on the premises and so forth. That, there's no harm in that, whether or not it's, you could say, well, you don't need it, but why not have it?
Mr. Gibson, I believe earlier you mentioned as well a condition you'd be willing to agree to of a maximum of 2 cars and employees, direct employees only. Could you confirm if that is still the case, please?
I can confirm that is still the case.
And you also mentioned about having deliveries to bona fide addresses. How do you propose, are you proposing that as a potential condition?
Yes, we are. I mean, as the gentleman has said to a question, that payment is taken in advance. So when somebody makes an order for a delivery of a whatever it may be, then payment is made. So the address is actually provided, so the delivery driver has somewhere to go. And Park Bench 2 in something park does not recognise an address. A postcode is required, and then it throws up addresses of where that is, and therefore it is quite clear that it is only bona fide addresses that the deliveries can be made to with payment made in advance.
Thank you.
Sorry, just to finish off my question about risk assessment. So the conditions don't really tell us what that risk assessment was or what the issues were. But going on to the point made by legal services, with all these conditions in place, are your clients open to having a condition that says, and they've already said they're only using the front entrance of the shop, that they're not going to be using Smeaton Road to go back and forth? Can that be added as a condition? Thank you.
More than happy for that to be added.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffcoat was first.
I'm looking at the application here and I'm looking at section 17, which is the hours the premises are open to the public. There's been a lot of focus on what the licensing of after hours is. But are we also saying that this is being agreed by the licensing committee today? Because I appreciate you varied them slightly. You're now saying that the premises will be closed at 11 o'clock. But is that what you're asking the licensing committee to agree to today?
Microphone.
Yes, it is. It's something I agreed to in a memorandum to the licensing authority and the police on Friday, Thursday of last week, where it was quite clearly stated the premises would close at 11 o'clock and the licensable activity would be to the hours we've spoken of today.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffcoat, come back.
Then I would have to go back to something that was raised earlier about the threat to children, in that if you are looking to approve the licensing being open during the day as well, it states it will be open from 6 o'clock in the morning on the application form, then how are you preventing risk to the children nearby during the day?
Quite simply, once again, The Licensing Act states quite clearly that late night refreshment is activated at 2300 hours only through till 5 a.m. the following morning if hot food and or hot drink is served. Therefore, it is not a matter for the Licensing Committee to consider the operation of a hot food business, a restaurant, a takeaway during the day. It's just not within the Licensing Act powers. And it's not a matter for consideration today.
Sorry, then it's possibly my mistake, Chair, but I'm looking at section 17 of the application, which the committee, I am taking it, is required to make a judgment on today, and that includes the opening hours during the day. Is that something that is part of the application, I understand? Perhaps Mr. King could clarify.
Yeah, I'll invite Mr.
It's not
King
my
in
area of
just to clarify
expertise.
that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So the application that's being considered today is purely the application for the late night refreshments, so that's between the 11 o'clock and 12:30, Monday to Saturday, and from 11 o'clock until midnight on the Sunday. They don't require a licence to operate outside of those hours. They can do so without the need for a premises licence, so the committee is not considering the operation during the daytime. On the application form, it does state that they should provide the opening hours of the premises per se, and that's what they've done. So they don't actually need permission, that's just the information they've given us on the form.
Sir.
Thank you, sir. Whilst you've got the application in front of you, because I struggle with your plan, to be honest, that might be me, might be you, I don't know. On page 23, under D, prevention of public nuisance. Sorry, where's it gone? Yeah, it's got the middle paragraph, noise nuisance be kept to a minimum, which is nice, with all deliveries leaving from the back door. So is the back door the one that is next to Smeaton Road, if you like? And if so, could you talk us through the actual process of how the... Well, I didn't finish the question, so I didn't. So could you just talk us through the process, you or your client, of how the food is, or whatever is coming out the back door and getting into the vehicles, please?
Chair, thank you for the question. As we've said this morning, there has been various amendments to the application, and you've heard from the applicant himself that deliveries will leave via Chigwell Road and the cars are parked out the front of the premises, and therefore delivery drivers will leave via the front door. They will have a key, they can open it, they can lock it behind them, and off they go. So the back door is no longer in use.
Sorry, mate. Thank you. So just to clarify, that's just been decided in the cut and thrust of the questioning. Is that correct?
It's something the applicant spoke to me last week about, saying that's how they intended to operate, but that was not amended in the application, which I held my hand up. I should have done so on Thursday when I sent in the amended application, but omitted to it at that point.
Thank you for your honesty. Could also, this is more of a request, to get clarity around the conditions, because I'm a little bit confused. I wonder if we could, I've heard about CCTV back and forth, which is law, but I take your point. But can we just see which conditions are staying in and which conditions are being added at some stage, please?
If I can come in there, I think we're fairly clear that all the conditions that are relevant to the new amended hours will stay, with the addition of the other ones that we've discussed, that the deliveries will go via the front. There'll be 2 vehicles only, and direct employees are the additional conditions that I'm aware of, unless you'd like to add.
And the electric vehicles.
And the electric vehicles. Yeah, that's it's only through the front. So I've got a question from the gentleman here.
So I'm not really familiar with dark kitchens, but from research, is it possible that you could start running other companies from that dark kitchen once you've got the licence for this company?
Not to my knowledge, no. The licence would be the name of these guys' company, so I don't believe that can take place.
So with the Chickaroos that's opened in Chigwell Road, further up the road, there are reports that there's multiple kitchens running from that site. Is that right or not?
Yes, we have franchise brands. Not different companies, franchise. We have franchises.
So that is, yes, there's multiple companies running from that single site.
I would just come in to remind you, we can only look at the application that has got in front of us today. So I appreciate your question, but it has to be direct to this one, please. Thank you.
So with the amount of deliveries that you're expecting, because I know your job is to diminish our concerns, yeah, which you're going for. And you said there will be 2 to 3 deliveries a night, yeah, maybe 4. And you said that the financial aspects aren't our concern. And that if it's a failure, then it won't be there very long. So based on your consideration that would be considered a failure, are you expecting it to ramp up quite dramatically in the coming weeks and months of you being there?
I think the answer to that is in the conditions that we've offered. 2 to 3 vehicles only. Self-employed delivery drivers. Electric cars parked out the front. It can't be ramped up because to ramp it up you would need 4, 5, 6 vehicles. And if I can see perfectly what your concern is. Is this going to become a multiple company delivery outlet and there's going to be cars coming from all angles? 2 to 3, 2 cars only, 2 to 3 deliveries. Well, you can't condition 2 to 3 deliveries because that's economic forces, but 2 vehicles only can't ramp up and become what your fears are. So it's there. Your protection is in the conditions of the licence that we're proposing today. It cannot get any bigger because if they wanted to come back and say, you know, things have gone really, really well. People around this area love our food and we can't keep up with demand. They would have to come back with an application to the committee or to the licensing authority to apply to vary their licence to increase the number of vehicles that they wish to operate from that premises. Because, as the Chair has already noted, there is going to be a condition that says 2 vehicles for delivery only. So if 2 vehicles cannot cope, they can't just add a 3rd and hope you don't notice. They can't just add a 4th and hope you don't notice. They would have to make an application to say, we would like to amend the condition on our current licence that says we're only allowed to have 2 vehicles. And then that matter would come before you guys again, it'd become before all the authorities again, and it would probably end up back in here again. But it would be a matter for the committee to make a decision in the end. So you have that protection with that on the actual potential licence that may be granted today, that 2 vehicles only are to be used. It cannot become what your fears are. I hope that answers your question.
So I don't know how the licensing works, if we're licensing the premises or we're licensing the company that operates from the premises. Yeah. So what clarity can I have on that the 2 vehicles is to the premises, not to the amount of franchises that they run from the dark kitchen?
David, could I ask you to respond to that one, please?
Yeah, to answer the first, so it's the premises. So a licence is specific to that premises. So anyone operating under that licence will need to adhere to the conditions of a licence that's granted. So anyone that wishes to sell hot food between 11 o'clock and 12:30 would have to adhere to that condition, unless, as Mr Gibson has stated, they would wanted to change that, but then they would need to apply for a variation, and again that would be another application and that would be open to consideration.
So if they were to apply for a variation after this hearing, whether it gets approved or not, how difficult is it? Because it seems to me that to apply for a 3 o'clock licence in the first instance and then to just revoke it to a 12:30, to me was a bit contrived. Yeah, they're going head over heels and then they're stepping it back so it appears like a win for us. So if they were to then apply for just 2 licences now for the 2 cars, is it then an easy step to come back and go, we want 3? How much emphasis will you give on the whole process of upping it to 3 from coming from 0 to 2? Because 2 to 3 is nothing, 0 to 2 is something, and gradually it gets bigger and bigger.
I will just remind you that this is the section for questions to the applicant. In the interest of transparency there, I would ask Mr King just to give some clarity on that matter, and then after that, this lady here has been waiting a long time for her question. I'll go to you.
Just for clarity, Chair. So the application for a variation is identical to that for the grant of a licence. So it'd be 28-day consultation again, and residents would be able to then make comment on that application. So it'd be a public notice at the premises to which it relates, public notice in the press, as well as consultation with the responsible authorities, and residents would again have that opportunity to make comments they wish to do so. Chair, if I may, just going back to the conditions, because I do think it's important to clarify this. There's been a lot of discussion around the conditions. If I can just refer you to section 18 of the application, and Mr Gibson, what I'd like to clarify is basically on there. There's conditions that relate specifically to 0100 hours that would no longer be relevant in the amended hours. They would be substituted, just for clarity for the committee, they would be substituted with a condition that states home delivery only. And if a licence were to be granted, it would only be granted up until the terminal hour of 12:30 and subsequently midnight on Sunday. But we would remove those conditions that relate to 1 o'clock would be removed, and they'd be substituted with home delivery only. So hopefully that clarifies matters.
We're clear on that here. Thank you. This lady here has been waiting a long time, and just a reminder, it's a direct question to the applicant.
Can you tell me why, well, I'm not understanding, but you're saying there's just 2 delivery vehicles, when on your site you're advertising through Uber Eats and Deliveroo, etc.
Microphone, please. Thank you.
The posters, if you want to call them that, that's up on the premises relate to the previous owners of the business, not to these guys.
It's got there on the Chickaroo site. Look, you know, that you can get the food through Deliveroo, Uber Eats, etc. So I'm a bit confused.
That's incorrect.
That's for Chigwood
Hmm?
Is
that for 49 Chigwood Road?
2 delivery vehicles, and clearly that opens the door to the multitude.
I've just been informed by the applicant to my right, who can clarify himself, and said that is in relation to 49 Chigwell Road, not for these premises. These premises are not trading and will not trade for some time, because we don't have, as I say, we need to regulate the planning side of things. So it's not an immediate, it's for...
This is talking about the new premises. This, what I've got here, is about the new premises. The new exciting premises opening up in Chigwell. So it's clearly saying that we're using that. So I'm a bit concerned that it does seem a bit contrived that they're changing the hours and changing everything and not going to have anybody coming in. And I think there's you know, I can't work it out and just tell me why I found that on the site.
Yeah, the website is closed, so you can't make any orders at the moment. We just stopped the websites. You can't take any orders at the moment. You can't make any orders.
Sorry,
The microphone, please. I think just for clarity as well, this is the point of this hearing, so that we can introduce conditions. So whatever is there and has been said, that's the point of the conditions. Yeah. If I could, Councillor Jeffcoat with a question, please.
Just a very specific question. Will you be providing any form of online delivery, i.e. Deliveroo, Uber Eats, etc., from the premises in Chigwell Road, Smeaton Road? Will there be any service from there operated on behalf or to available to those type of companies?
Microphone.
I can confirm for the committee this morning on behalf of the applicants there will be no third-party delivery drivers used at these premises. And from that, I believe you're talking Uber Eats, whatever. We've said, and it was in the original application, and it has been taken as a potential condition, should it be granted, that there will be only 2 vehicles and they will be operated by employed people from the business. So there will be no third-party operatives making. That was the answer. You asked a specific question, you got a specific answer.
And to follow up on that, would you be happy for that to be conditioned as part of any licence, that there would be no third-party operations from that premises?
I think it's already within the conditions that the chair has in front of him that it cannot be operated any other way. I don't think that's specific. That's a duplication of what we've already put forward. It doesn't need to be added.
Yeah. Yeah, and as they've already agreed that, we can we can put that condition so that that is explicitly clear there. Yes, gentleman here.
Sir, just to clarify, whilst we heard earlier there'd been no more than 4 deliveries in any of the evenings, just so I've got this right, I think what you said is the amount of deliveries there actually will be dictated by economic constraints plus the any limitations you might have by having 2 vehicles at this stage. Is that correct?
That is correct. I can't say it would be absolutely folly to put forward a condition said there will only be 4 deliveries made a night, because that's market forces will determine that. But the reality is, how many deliveries can you make from a vehicle in 1.5 hours? It has its own limitations. Market forces will determine.
Well, that's a great question, because we heard 4.
Microphone.
Oh.
Sorry.
Sorry, excuse me. That's a great question, because we heard 4, but actually the question is, how many deliveries can you make during those hours and the extra time allocated where people apparently won't come back to the shop? By the way, the front door, as we've seen in the pictures, it both covers Smeaton Road and Chigwell Road. Thank you.
Chair, as you'll know, the conditions applied to a licence have to be enforceable, and good luck with a licensing officer or somebody having to enforce a condition that says you've made 5 deliveries tonight. They have to be enforceable. Market forces determine that. I gave that as an example, given we have 2 vehicles only, we have a 4-mile radius, we have a limited time. I'm sure you understand the context of what I made that comment on. The enforceable side of it is 2 vehicles. The enforceable side of it is electric vehicles. The enforceable side of it is that the deliveries are made where the cars wait out front. But in terms of how many, they might sit one night and not make any. That would be in breach. If you say we'll make 4 deliveries a night and we don't make any, we're in breach of our licence. It can't be conditioned. It was put forward as a kind of a suggestion to give you an idea, but it really depends on how many of you lovely general public actually order the food.
Why can't you...
Excuse me. If you could just wait your turn, please. This gentleman and then this lady's been waiting a long time. Your microphone as well, please. You can turn your microphone.
Sorry, the question was really around not a lecture on conditions and what's enforceable and what isn't, but really was, you said how many deliveries there would be, a figure you threw out, presumably off the top of your head, albeit constrained. What we're looking at is the impact on residents from the activities. So that's what the question is really around, is you say 4, but it could be 8, it could be 16. And what would be the impact on the residents? That was behind the question.
If I may, can I slightly reword that question and say, what do you envisage as being the maximum amount of deliveries you could do within that time frame, if the gentleman's happy with that question? I think that highlights the point clearer for people.
I've just asked my client to my right, how many times could a driver go out in an hour and a half, each driver? And he said a maximum, if they were absolutely ram-packed, a maximum of 4 times. Each driver, a maximum.
Yeah, so 8 deliveries.
That's, that doesn't happen on a nightly basis. He's saying on a maximum based on the time constraints. And that might be less, because he could have 3 deliveries that are 4 miles apart, or he could have 3 deliveries that are a mile apart. You just can't legislate for that, but he's saying it can go in a maximum of 4 times.
Thank you. The lady, thank you for waiting so patiently.
Sorry, my question is to your clients. Given that we're all here and we're hashing this out and we're really concerned about this hour and a half, and what Mr. Gibson has said is that there can't be that many deliveries, does this hour and a half really matter so much when we're talking about our personal lifestyle, livelihood, when you're going to be doing deliveries during the day as well? Why would you not do deliveries up until the point of where you close? I mean, as you say, it's an hour and a half. You might do 3 or 4, you might do none. It still may impact us personally. From what Mr. Gibson has said, there's a very good chance that it's going to be quite minimal for you guys. So what's the interest here? Like, we're a community. We're talking about our personal livelihoods, our lifestyles, and obviously in the community, we want to support businesses, we want to do that, but we also want to ensure that our personal time isn't fully, or not even fully, I should say, impacted in a way, you know, that's why we're here. So my question is, based on that, does that hour and a half really matter so much to you guys when you're doing deliveries all throughout the day, based on the fact that I've heard for the last hour or so, it's not going to be that much, it's not going to be this, but we don't know that until we see it. So what's more, well, obviously making money is more important, but shouldn't the community also be a factor and a consideration?
Chair,
Sorry, that was for your clients.
I can answer on behalf of my clients. Regretfully, it's not a licensing matter before you today. What the business economics and their business model suggests, it's not something to put before you today. We're dealing with the impact on any one of the 4 licensing objectives, and that question didn't come close.
Yeah, but we're not here about the economics. I'm speaking about that 1 hour and a half and how it impacts us. So economics, yeah, throw that out the window. But what I'm saying to you is that hour and a half at that particular time of night impacts us personally. Why is that not being taken into consideration? And what I'm asking, does that impact you so much in terms of what you're trying to do?
I think the question does need to be based around the licensing objectives, and yeah.
Well, the gentleman's just said to me on that, and I don't, well, we're getting into ground here that we shouldn't be going. The hour and a half, 6 days a week, and then an hour, 1 day a week makes a difference over a weekly trade to the business. That is their statement, and that is their decision. And they will stand and fall by that decision based on the money they put up and the money they potentially would lose should it not go right. And that is a matter for them. Your questions really need to centre around the impact we'd have on any one of the 4 licensing objectives. And I think, to be fair, Chair, we've kind of done this to death today in terms of what impact nuisance would have. I think we're agreed as a group that prevention of public nuisance is the one licensing objective engaged here. There's no suggestion of crime and disorder, there's no suggestion of public safety, there's no suggestion of protecting children. It centres around the kind of noise of deliveries, the lights, etc. And that's what I think we've gone round and round in circles on this. We've answered everything that potentially needs answering on that. And then it becomes a matter for yourselves.
Yep. Thank you for that. I will always give the objectors their chance to ask their questions, regardless of how many there is and how many times we have to go round. So if there are any more questions, otherwise we will move to the presentation. So I believe this lady has a question, and then yourself after.
You spoke about being a dark kitchen. In what way does that differ from a light kitchen? I'm not understanding it.
Very simply, the lights are off. Putting it very bluntly, the lights are off and there's no attraction to the outside world that anything is going on. It's going on behind closed doors, and therefore the general public would not know anything is happening there.
So therefore, I can assume that I'm going to hear the same noises that I've heard when the Italian restaurant was open, which is a lot of noise in the kitchen, making and preparing food. You're asking that goes up to the evening.
A question on this application.
I'm just asking, have you put that into your...
Yeah, it just,
okay.
I'm sorry, it has to be a question on this application, so okay. I don't believe there was a question there. The lady on the front row, have you got a question? You've had your hand up a couple of times, sorry.
Yeah. Similar to my other neighbour there, about why does that hour and a half matter and changing a business, but because I wanted to ask why can't you accept the existing hours, because it is setting a precedent for any other business in the local area that doesn't operate after 10 p.m. It's a residential street, so why can't you accept it? So I'm just reiterating that question. Accept the existing hours. And these hours, in my understanding, have been that these were set by the Secretary of State. So why should this be overturned? Why should these hours be overturned for when there's a community of residents that object to it and there's just two of you? Why should these considerations, we're talking as if all these considerations, a decision has already been made. That's what I'm hearing. I just don't even see why it should be considered.
Thank you for that. I think we have covered that question in various different forms, and we need to remember that we are just looking at the application that's before us. It's not relevant to any other properties, any other precedents. It's only relevant to that. If I can move to the gentleman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Brooks. I think in the interest of natural justice and furthermore not getting an answer to my earlier question, I think the questions that people are trying to make, whilst not being licensing specialists, are predicated on a lot of the concerns of the impact that it will have on residents in the immediate area, including vulnerable people. And still now, I asked earlier, why, when you have a very respectful, fearful maybe, operator for the Italian, when he's doing takeaways, what makes this application for what you dismissed as just a couple of hours or whatever, what gives us comfort that that kids will be able to sleep at night, that people will be able to enjoy the private comfort of their homes, and so on and so forth, and all these things. It's with respect, it's not really for you to say which aspect is being looked at. We've got vulnerable people that in the area who walk in front of places. There are many aspects of this, and what we're looking at is the impact on the quiet enjoyment and safety and nuisance towards people. And I'm not sure that what you say has fully answered what you've put forward and tried to dictate to the panel. So could you just answer how you can be sure that by operating the way you do, that this is not going to have an impact on residents and people in the area, please?
Under what licensing objective?
Under, if you look in the pack, which I'm sure you've read, I would say under all three. Children need sleep at night. You've got vulnerable people, so you have the public safety element of people going back and forth. They're people not, I'll put this clumsily, not in their own mind. And you've got nuisance, not only noise nuisance, but light nuisance, and pollution nuisance, and all the rest. So I'd just like you to explain to me and my clients, and possibly everybody here, about, I just find the answers very blasé. There are very specific impacts on the licensing objectives. I'm particularly avoiding crime and disorder because the police have decided that they're happy. There are other thoughts, and clearly with the amended operation, that is less of a concern than it was. But you know, you clearly look at the bundle, and it's all of the other three. And I would also mention that the police didn't take into account, very good, that a previous incumbent had been doing deliveries, and the impact of that was felt, heard, and disturbed residents anyway. So I think it's up to you not to dictate to the panel what you're looking at. It's quite clear. There are concerns, and it's not a blasé thing, but there are concerns for all the residents here. So could you please expand on how it's not going to affect the other three objectives, please?
Thank you, Chair. I think to answer the question, Chair, we have put forward a number of offered conditions, both in the operating schedule and today, that should answer the question you've had before you, how they intend to operate. It's very easy to sit here and say there were problems with the previous occupiers of the premises. Now, the previous occupiers have got nothing to do with these guys, and what I would ask were complaints made to the official channels about how they operate. It's very easy to say, yeah, we had problems, but nobody made a complaint. That's quite common. I think we need to look at this in context. We're looking at a list of objections were 47 strong, as you've heard, but the objections centred, as you will have read them yourself, centred around the day-to-day operation of that premises, and they don't want it here at all. And that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about 1.5 hours times 6 plus 1. That's really what we're here to talk about, because up to 11 o'clock they can operate unlicensed, and outside of planning there isn't an awful lot anyone here can do to stop it. They operate 3 businesses currently. They don't operate to any problems. That, again, is not relevant because it's not, but I'm giving you context in terms of these guys are not green round the ears, they're actually experienced operators. And they also tell me in my ear, just there, and I put it forward in not knowing if this is right or not, they tell me there's a pub in the 100 yards away that opens till midnight. So we've got a premises here that's closing at 11 and they're doing deliveries till 12:30, and you've got a public house turning out at 12 o'clock. Is that correct, Jim? Mr. King could assist. It may be correct information or not, but I would just give it a little word in my ear there as we were talking. But I think to answer the question, we've given forward as much, I think, as we can. We've been around in circles if we're actually trying to go over things again. You have everything before us, Chair, and that is the application.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffcoat with a question.
Yes, on public nuisance, we've heard that currently the operating hours of the restaurant are closing at 10 o'clock at night. That's its planning. And this, what is proposed is, I'm assuming then, if planning is not altered, planning, as we said, is a separate issue, it will go from 11 till 12:30 at night. A dark kitchen, which is a commercial kitchen, in effect. So what we're looking at is a commercial kitchen operating up until 12:30 at night. I've not heard any form of mitigation from the client as to how they are going to prevent the impact of the noise from that kitchen impacting on the neighbours until 12:30 at night. Furthermore, public safety, it's been proposed that there are 2 parking spaces created to the front of the restaurant. That will involve vehicles reversing onto the main road at night. Now that again is a matter for highways, but I would be very careful whilst I understand the need for that, and I think it's very important that the access is not through Smeaton Road and adjoining houses at the back, but there is an element of public safety on having those cars manoeuvring on and off and across the pavement at the front, which I don't think has been addressed yet. How are your clients, or how are you proposing to address that? How are you proposing to mitigate the nuisance from the kitchen noise, the commercial kitchen noise, up until 12:30, and how are you proposing to mitigate the public safety risk of cars coming on and off the front there?
I think with that, obviously, as you did allude to, anything highways is relevant to planning, which is a separate matter. But yeah, your first point, please, if you can respond to that.
As I've said, the operators are experienced. They operate other units. They operate in such a way they do not create noise nuisance by the operation of their business to neighbouring residents. And you may say the others are on high streets, but they're flats above. And that you're not creating any noise nuisance to them whatsoever. There is no reason to suggest there would be any kind of noise nuisance just because it is purported the previous owners created noise. These are not these guys. And therefore, there is no suggestion to say that there would be noise created. I dare say if you as residents found there was noise being created, you could make complaints in the proper channels and they would be dealt with accordingly.
Sorry, to go back, as you've pointed out, we're talking about the application before us. So I am asking, with this particular premises, what mitigation are your clients putting in place to prevent noise risk and the loss of amenity and the cause of public nuisance to neighbours from the noise from this commercial kitchen they are proposing to operate there?
And it's my submission to you today that there would be no noise that would cause issue to the neighbours based on how they operate their other businesses. They will operate in the same way and there will be no noise nuisance.
So to confirm, you're not able to give any mitigation details of what you are doing to reduce the noise that is up to 1:30 at night. You've got no mitigation in place for that.
The premises close at 12:30. And I fail to see how there is a need to put forward measures to suppress noise that doesn't exist in the first place. If it does, it'll be dealt with. But at the moment, there is no noise issues feared by these guys when they open their business. They do not believe they will cause a public nuisance in terms of how they operate. Maybe they can give us more detail how they operate their other businesses, but it will be operated in the same way. I know it's all about this business. I totally understand that and would agree with that. But they are coming here today to say there will be no noise nuisance, how we operate. We don't operate in a noisy manner. It is the type of food we operate, you won't even know we're there, and that's how the other businesses operate, and there's no suggestion this would be any different.
Thank you. So to confirm, you can't give any mitigation details. Thank you.
Sir, thank you. I don't know whether you misunderstood the point about when I said the previous operator, who was very responsible and very considerate and very moderate with his hours, that despite his best efforts, there was still inescapably some noise and disturbance to residents. And for you to say that, well, we should have taken to this or to that, it wasn't appropriate because the point being made was that he was a very responsible and moderate operator who did all that he could to respect the residents around in terms of the 4 licensing objectives. And if despite best efforts, even he, closing at 10 o'clock, had an impact, then I don't quite follow how this application for the later hours is not going to have an impact. I don't know if you understood that, sir.
Is there a direct question in there?
Well,
we're getting to the realms of making statements and addressing the overall principle. We need direct questions, and then you'll have your opportunity to make your presentation.
Well, that came back to my earlier question, sir, which wasn't answered some time ago, where you have a moderate and responsible person working within certain hours, but still, despite best efforts, there are noises and lights and other disturbances to residents. How on earth, given all the concerns that have all been put in the bundles from everybody and loads more who can't attend for various reasons, just after Easter and work, how can you ask for these hours? How can you show and demonstrate that there aren't going to be these issues? I fail to understand.
I'm struggling to see where the direct question is there relating to policy. If there isn't further questions relating directly to the policy, I propose we move forward to the presentation of the objectors. Have you got a final question there?
I just wanted to know how you propose to keep the noise element in the kitchen down after 11 o'clock.
Sorry, microphone.
I wanted to know how you propose to keep the noise level in the kitchen at a reduced level from 11 o'clock till 12:30, when it's always been a very visible when it was the Italian restaurant up until closure at 10.
Thank you, microphone. If you could answer on what you, in terms of your practice, what mitigating measures you do use to try and reduce noise, or if there isn't any, then share that.
The only noise we'll be making is inside the shop. We won't be doing anything outside. So doors will be closed, windows will be closed, so there's no chance of noise coming outside. So our machines are very brand new machines, so they don't make any noises.
So for clarity, your mitigating measures are closed windows and closed doors to stop sound reaching outside, and there's nothing else on top of that. Thank you. Right, if we can now move forward to the presentation of the objectors. So this is your opportunity to present why you don't think this case will be, why you don't think this case should be supported by the subcommittee today. Thank you. If anyone wants to kick off with that. There's a lot of eyes heading in your direction. Oh, sorry, 1 second. We've got a question here.
No, I don't have a question, but obviously Essex Police didn't withdraw their representation. Obviously it did come through quite late. I have been on annual leave, so I haven't officially withdrawn my representation. So I just wanted to give a quick statement, if that's okay.
More than welcome,
Thanks, Chair. So yeah, Essex Police received the application for Chickaroe's Chicken Chigwell and felt that the application would undermine the crime and disorder licensing objective as well as the public nuisance objective. Essex Police therefore sought for a reduction in licensable activity times as set out in Essex Police's bundle. Essex Police are aware that the applicant has agreed to the reduction in hours, so I'm here to answer any questions that may arise and just to ensure that the Chief of Essex Police has a voice at this subcommittee hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Has anyone on the committee got questions with regards to the police? And have any objectors got a direct question for the police on this?
So were you objecting to the additional hours? Did you support the objection? I couldn't hear.
Microphone off.
So when the application originally come through in its original form, Essex Police did make representation, yes. We felt that the hours were too late and they would undermine the two licensing objectives, crime and disorder and public nuisance. However, obviously, obviously we put through times that we felt should be reduced to, which the applicant has agreed to. So therefore, yes, our representation is maintained purely so that the Chief Constable of Essex Police has a voice at this hearing. But essentially, we are not objecting, no.
Just a question for you. Is it not a fact that there's a direct correlation between chicken shops and recruitment of gangs and crime, and that's been widely reported in the press, and there's been data and research to support that? And being that there's a local school within like 500 yards of a chicken shop, this is beyond, but I'm just saying for you not to support that.
Excuse me, so this isn't a relevant question. Okay, so if we can move on to the presentation of the objectors, please. We're going to do the presentation now. Is anyone... Microphone on, please. Thank you.
We've heard a lot today from the applicants and from the residents on the nature of this application. Chigwell Parish Council strongly objected to it on the first hearing. We have obviously heard the amended hours. We are pleased that the applicant has made some steps towards the concerns of residents. However, concerns remain. The site currently operates from 9 o'clock in the morning the license hours are 9 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, Monday to Saturday, and 12 to 6 o'clock on Sunday. We haven't heard this evening of any mitigation measures for the additional noise that will be caused outside those hours. We've heard that noise was caused before. We appreciate this is a different applicant. However, the proposal is to operate a dark kitchen from 11 o'clock at night till 12:30 at night. The dark kitchen is a commercial kitchen serving customers through online orders. The kitchen will need ventilation, the oil fryers and the grills will need cooling and air ventilation systems to handle the smoke and the heat from them. We have heard no mitigation factors as to how this is going to be managed, and we've heard no mitigation as to how the smells that will be generated late into the night will be dealt with, and how the heat and smoke will be safely and properly managed for both occupants of the kitchen and for the residents nearby. So we do consider that there is a risk of public nuisance remaining by nature of the lack of mitigation that has been offered. So as such, the parish does continue to strongly object to this application, and we fully support residents in their objections. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Would anyone else like to summarise their objection? Yes.
Yeah, looking back in 1996, when it went for the planning inspectorate, it was noted that Force Meeting Road and 787 Chigwell Road would be the council's fully documented statement concludes the restaurant would result in noise and activity late at night, harming the amenity of neighbours, particularly those whose properties abut the car park. They are Force Meeting Road, which is where I live, and 787 Chigwell Road, which is a residential home. That's nothing to me has changed from that. That still remains the same, that my home and the home of the residential home will be severely impacted. Talking about, nothing about an hour and a half, it's only an hour and a half. Well, you try 365 days of the year to have noises up till 12:30 at night. That's not acceptable to me. My partner's got Lewy body dementia. He's also got Parkinson's. I've got a letter from his doctor, if you'd like to see that, in support of this not going ahead. The other thing to say is the people at the residential home, they are vulnerable young people. You've probably got the notifications there about them. We're looking at both sides of this restaurant is very vulnerable people who are entitled to peace and quiet. 1.5 hours, you're putting it down as if it's nothing. You try living next door to a restaurant with noises and kitchen noises and ventilators and whatever else going on, and cars pulling up. I think it's a bit naive to say you're going to have 4 deliveries in a night. You'll last about a week if that's all you're getting. So I just actually feel the whole fact that you're saying, oh, let's go with it, it's only an hour and a half. It's an hour and a half of my peace for the next how many years. I didn't move to my home as a stopgap. I moved there for life. And what you're proposing will completely disadvantage not just me but my partner, and not just the people at that care home but other people in the locality. Mr. Brooks is also very unwell. He's also overlooking the restaurant. It just feels to me that this has been totally disregarded, the impact of what you're proposing. I just feel the earlier planning of 9 till 10, Monday to Saturday, and the Sunday openings was done because of the very reason we're talking about, to protect my liberty and my right to live peacefully.
Thank you very much for that. If you could turn the microphone off. Right. Does anyone else want to make a final statement on there?
May I just add one thing?
You may.
Just one further addition. We've obviously heard about the impact on the public community and the public nuisance. And as has been pointed out, the committee should balance the economic impact for refusing this application with the impact on neighbouring amenity. We've established that it is considered there is a public nuisance. Does the economic impact of granting this licence outweigh or justify the impact on the public and the public nuisance to it? The parish council would say no. We have heard that there is only going to be 3 or 4 deliveries per night. The applicant has already confirmed they have another dark kitchen just a mile or 2 away. So the economic benefit of them opening another one here hasn't really been demonstrated, in that it outweighs the loss of the, outweighs the public nuisance that this may cause up to 12:30 at night. That's a further reason that the council are not able to support this.
Thank you for that, Councillor Jeffco. I'm going to move on to question. Closing statement. Have you got a presentation to make?
Sorry, so just to clarify, you're saying closing statements?
Sorry, that's my mistake. No, we're not on to the closing statements yet. If you would like to present your case, round off as what you've discussed earlier, then we'll move to closing statements after we've had questions from the subcommittee.
Certainly, I'll be as brief as I can, given that I've got responsibility to a number of other residents or households. Some will give their apologies and told me to amplify their points. So, given the amendments, I'll be mindful of those. So, this is from a resident from Turpin's Lane, which is parallel to Smeaton, and as he describes a rat run, he states deliveries until 3 a.m, totally unreasonable, will invariably, I think it means inevitably, cause some form of public nuisance to residents. It's all about the rat run, nuisance, excessive noise, and he's worried about the effect to people. Let me go next. Then one elderly couple who can't be here today in Smeaton Road. That again, they talk about Turpin's Lane, particularly at the Chigwell Road end. Love Lane, Smeaton Road and Brunel Road are all narrow and busy with traffic, hence the earlier point. Cars parked on both sides, particularly during the evening and night time, when it's almost impossible even for residents to find a parking space. But I think the bigger point is the obstruction to the highway and the blind spots. No street lighting after 1 in the morning. The comings and goings of vehicles delivering fast food late at night in the early hours would inevitably be hazardous to public safety. Noise, there'd be some. Litter I won't go into, nor myself for the moment. Then my people from Love Lane who can't be here because of business, send their apologies. They're concerned on, well, it says delivery riders, but delivery vehicles. Children, young people will want sleep. Streets very narrow, hours very long. Vulnerable people in close proximity, as we've heard. Deliveries, doors, chats, orders, noise. Will be likely to impact residents, including those that need their sleep, work or study. The road's so busy, one vehicle can easily cause an obstruction. This will likely cause obstruction of the highway, and it says a pavement, that means it needs to be mitigated. There appears to be little or no understanding of the needs of residents. There's a concern about the smell of chicken in the air. I don't know whether the tractor fans have been looked at. And people have right privacy of their home. And then, oh my gosh, this is a long one for another person at the end. Well, people at the end of Smeaton Road. One second. Concerns about fast food, residential area, late night commercial use, not appropriate, and it's going to cause all kinds of issues with portable food, blah, blah, blah. Also, general issue of general noise, light, and smell. I don't know if that's effective. Talk about extraction fans, talk about air pollution. I've highlighted the noise of mopeds and other vehicles in and out of the venue, delivering up to 3 a.m. in the morning, or amended to these hours, will cause issues, especially considering the nature of the road. It's just a constant theme of children sleeping, people sleeping, have to work, etc.
Then there's another one about cars going up and down the road from another person. Again, from another person, takeaways and deliveries available till late, give problems with noise. Now, what I say and have said is this, apart from me and my wife, is that a lot has failed to be mentioned in the application. There's been, contrary to your policy, contrary to guidance, contrary to law, there have been other things put in for this application to make it look better than it is. There are concerns, there are great concerns actually, with this applicant, as was said, and I have the honesty, that if nobody had made an objection today, they would have been operating from 8 a.m. till 3 a.m. every day of the week, which would have allowed residents a lot of respite from them. Again, I go into streets very narrow and all this stuff. Vulnerable people in close proximity. Noise carries. We've heard about very vulnerable people in a home. We know that there's regrettably other very vulnerable people. There seems we have the Human Rights Act, right to a private life. I've mentioned things about policy and what have you. My wife, for example, in my life, amplified objection. Sometimes she has to drive a close relative to hospital. If those roads are blocked at any time, that could be a matter of life and death. I don't think I'm alone.
We do want to get to a point where I understand you're
really
representing all your
through.
residents, but if
I'm
we
really
could get to a
rushing
point
through,
of
sir,
wrapping up the points.
But also in the interest of natural justice, a lot of what's been put forward today should have been disclosed earlier. A lot has been amended. The conflict management has filled us with foreboding because there's never been any problems with conflict management. The plan wasn't clear. And what we hear today is that there's a rather forgive me, but there's a rather blasé and dismissive attitude towards residents and their concerns. And Toulson, especially LJ Hope and Glory, Court of Appeal, highlights some bits. So the impact on the lives of those who live and work in the vicinity and so on, because your decision, sir, and the committee, is to decide, as I said earlier, about the negative impact on those living and working in the vicinity versus any economic benefits to the proprietor and the locality. The locality certainly doesn't need economic stimulation. So we're just looking at the application. We would say, me and my clients, neighbours, those living and working in the vicinity far outweighs their concerns, any economic benefits to the proprietor. And also, it would have been clear and obvious from any diligent pre-application research that this would be the wrong location to launch a business applying for late hours, as per this application, and indeed this amended application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I speak on behalf of members when we have a clear idea of what the objectors issues are regarding this matter. So I'm going to ask if there are any questions to the objectors at this stage. No, thank you. And then questions for the objectors from the applicants. No questions there. Thank you very much. Right, so we now move on to the closing statement from the objectors. Again, I request this isn't a reiteration of everything that's already been discussed. If we can just close that down, perhaps you want to elect someone to do that on your behalf amongst you, or make that, if we can please proceed with that.
Yeah, basically, we've heard, you know, obviously they're a business venture. I think there's some misunderstanding that we're actually opposing them as a group of people, which we're not. It's basically just about us recognising we're in a residential road. It's a very quiet, peaceful road. 10 o'clock at night, you can hear a pin drop. And to actually feel that this could go on all through to 12:30 at night, the coming and going, I think it's a bit, you know, a bit naive to think they're only going to get 4 deliveries in an evening, because I just don't see someone wanting to be open for an extra hour and a half at night just for 4 deliveries. You know, I think that's way off. I do feel that they're going to use Uber drivers. I do feel that they're going to kind of bend things because they've not stuck to what they originally wanted. They've changed and adapted, I think, in the hope that we'll see it as, okay, you know, they've come halfway with us. Let's let them be. But reality is we're going to end up with the excessive noise, not from the kitchen, from the vents, from vehicles, from people talking, from people, you know, hanging all about. And I just think it's going to be disruptive. Not, I mean, obviously, particularly for me, when I'm looking out over the yard and when I've got that coming on next to me, that's what I'm going to be looking down at. The kitchen is here. That's what I'm looking at. This is the kitchen, that bit there. So it's not kind of tucked away inside. The fault that we're not going to have noise. I used to hear noise all the time from the Italian kitchen working. Just accepted that. It closed at 10, and then I got my peace and quiet.
Okay.
Whereas I just think for them to say, oh, it's acceptable, it's certainly not. Not living in my house, it's not going to be acceptable. My partner's in a terrible state about all this. And I think we have a right as a community to have our views looked at and our right to live peacefully. I don't think anyone here, including the applicants, would want to live next door to a late night shop. So we're not asking for anything other than what anyone else would want, which is just to keep the peace and tranquility we've got and for it to remain.
Thank you very much. Yep. Yes, please. It's a microphone.
Thank you. We've heard that, I won't repeat old stuff, but we've heard that the applicant will need to get planning permission in order to continue. I'm not absolutely sure in the letter of the law that is right, which I don't want to go into. That will be up to their planning advisor to advise them. And secondly, sorry, I lost my thread. Yeah, and secondly, there's just one chance here. This has an impact on all the residents, and we just urge you, implore you, beg you to consider everything you've heard and read from everybody before making your decision, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I'll go over the closing statement from the applicant.
Thank you, Chair. You've heard an awful lot this afternoon now, from the objectors, but with all due respect, I don't think you've heard very much regarding the Licensing Act. What you've heard today would have been, or would be, far more suited to a planning application, because everything you're hearing about in terms of extraction and so forth, that's a planning matter. Traffic is a planning matter. Parking is a planning matter. It's not a licensing matter. And it's easy
to bring you back to, or it's easy to get taken out of context, but bring us back to where we actually are today. It's 2,300 hours to 30 hours 6 days a week, and then an hour for the Sunday. Are we actually saying that suddenly the issues regarding all of these things become appreciably worse after 2,300 hours? There hasn't been a word said that things get worse after 2,300 hours. Up to 2,300 hours, they can open, given planning consent. And we're well aware of the need to get planning consent to allow this to happen, but it's the chicken and eggs, or it's where do you start? Do you go planning first and then apply for licensing and don't get it? Or do you apply for licensing and then you've got it in your back pocket, you can put it down and wait until you get planning in place, and then you can up and trade. One has got to start before the other. And even if you did them concurrently, planning takes twice the time it does for licensing. So it really is an up and down. We've heard questions as to why they need to open a restaurant 10 minutes away from their existing restaurant. Well, for what it's worth, the one at 49 Chigwell Road is a dark kitchen only. It doesn't have facilities for people to eat in. Customers who operate or who use that premises are asking, why don't you have a restaurant that we can come and eat in? Coupled with the fact that there was a short-term lease, the lease has run out, it's going to be extortionately expensive to renew it. They are seeking different premises, and therefore they'll have a restaurant where people can eat in and also have the deliveries. That is why the application's before you. That is why you're not going to have two conflicting premises. 49 Chigwell Road eventually will close down should this application be granted. I believe we've answered an awful lot of the questions in terms of how the premises will operate within the 4 licensing objectives. You've heard from the police they have no crime and disorder concerns. They suggested the hours. We're not going to hide behind that. They did, and the applicant has agreed to them. In an effort to waylay the fears of the objections that are before you today, you've heard statements that they will do this anyway. Well, Chair, you know that's not the case. You know that when conditions are put on a licence, they have to be adhered to because the penalties are severe. So anything we've put forward as conditions today will be adhered to, or indeed, very soon, these guys would end up in a review hearing with far bigger consequences. They know that. They're experienced operators and have been operating businesses for a considerable amount of time. I don't think I can assist you any further, Chair. That is the application. It is a licensing matter before you, where the licensing objective of the prevention of public nuisance perhaps was engaged today and discussed about at length. I think the applicant has put forward measures that satisfy that in terms of you being able to grant the application to the hours that we've asked for. Thank you very much for your time.
Microphone, please. Microphone. Thank you very much. The subcommittee have now heard from all parties, and we will retire to make our decision. For ease, we will leave rather than inviting all of you guys to leave. So we will do that now. Please take this opportunity for a comfort break if needs be, and then we'll return shortly. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have your attention, please. Thank you. The Licensing Subcommittee considered an application for a premises licence for Chickaroo's Chicken Chigwell, 783 Chigwell Road, Woodford Green, Chigwell, in accordance with the details shared on page 11 of the agenda. The representations in support and against the application have been taken into account, and we have also considered what is appropriate to promote the 4 licensing objectives and the relevant parts of the Council's licensing policy and government guidance. During our deliberations in private session, our advisory officers gave us the following advice. Conditions imposed must be appropriate, be capable of being enforceable, and must not undermine the licensing objectives, and that each case must be determined on its own merits. The committee noted all the submissions and representations, both oral and written, made in relation to the application. The decision of the subcommittee is that the application for a premises licence in respect of Chickaroo's Chicken Chigwell, 783 Chigwell Road, Woodford Green, Chigwell IGA AAU, be granted for the provision of late night refreshment between the hours of Monday to Saturday, 11 till 12:30, and Sunday, 11 until midnight, subject to the conditions as submitted by the applicant within their application, the representations which were previously agreed by the applicant and Essex Police on page 48 of the report, and insofar as they add to or supersede the applicant's conditions, and in addition, for the prevention of public nuisance, the following conditions. Only 2 electric vehicles are to be used for home deliveries of food at any time, and are only to be driven by staff directly employed by the licensee. Deliveries will only be made to a bona fide address. Parking of delivery vehicles will only take place on the Chigwell Road side of the licensed premises. All deliveries made within the licensed hours will commence and end on the Chigwell Road side of the licensed premises, which we consider are reasonable and proportionate and will not undermine the licensing objectives. We are also attaching the mandatory conditions contained in sections 19 to 21 of the Licensing Act 2023. The applicant and persons who have made representations are reminded of the right to appeal to the Magistrate Court within 21 days of the date of the written notice of this decision. Thank you very much. I close this meeting at 16 minutes past 1.